Operation status quo. Operation status quo. Prepare to engage. Operation status quo. Ready to engage. Operation status quo. Engaged. Engaged. Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Is it Wednesday already? Oh my goodness gracious. How quickly the time goes by when we're here together on Operation Status Quo. It's always a pleasure to be here with each and every one of you out there. You know I love you guys out there. I want to make sure I say that clearly and concisely right here on the onset before we even get into anything, because not that I ever forget, but I mean, I'm just feeling that love for you, the beautiful people of the world out there today, and I want to make sure that I'm sending that resonance out there to you, so you can feel the love as much as I feel the love, and we're all in love, and love is a beautiful thing, and all you need is love. Dun, 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 dun. All you need is love. Dun, 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 dun. All you need is love. Love. Love is all you need. Hey-o. All right. I don't know. You know how it goes with me, because this is Operation Status Quo, by the way. Hello and welcome. I am Pete Palmer, your user-friendly host, broadcasting live from the comfy confines of my very own home here in beautiful Florida. And, of course, here on Operation Status Quo, this is the place where we observe the status quo of life. We learn to flow with the status quo of life. And then, of course, we create our own flow of quo, because that's the only way to go. And as I always say, it's the most important thing to remember of how much power we have within ourselves to choose what's going on in our day-to-day life. You know, maybe sometimes I'm just thinking this as you know how my brain goes, right? As soon as I turn on the mic, it's like a whole new world in my head. But maybe I should back away from that a little bit, because I'm always saying about how we have the power to choose to be happy. And of course, I believe that, but at the same time, maybe everyone's disposition isn't geared the same way as mine is to be lighthearted and fun, right? And the truth is, unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, we need some of those more kind of stoical, serious people in the world, because without them, the real stuff would never get done. You would have just people like me, just a little dreamers floating around trying to say, be positive, be happy. No, I'm kidding. I'm half kidding, because just from my own perspective, I'm not like, I never consider myself one of those like guys that, can fix everything and, is working 24/7, being a, businessman and all that. Like, I'm really like, a kid at heart, but I can accomplish a lot of things, and I can do a lot of menial tasks. I'm well versed, believe me. So I do have quite a variety of things I could share with the population if it ever came to be that anybody needed help out there, right? If the world shuts off and we all have to help each other in the community, there's a lot of things I can provide. There's a lot of things that each of us can provide. So just to make it clear, it's not about, being, in La La Land and skipping down the street like nothing's, going on, right? The first and foremost, we do understand, and that's why we're here on Operation Status Quo, right? Because, we're just taking notes, we're taking assessment, whatever you want to say, taking stock. I think that's what they say, right? Taking stock and what's really, going on, be practical, understand the different facets of the world out there. And then, you have to just do what's right for you. That's what we do here on Operation Status Quo. That's what it's all about. So today is the 23rd of August in the good year 2023. Hello and welcome once again. If you haven't been here before, thanks so much for taking the time to do so. And if it turns out that you enjoy any portion of what I'm saying, if you find one part that you really like, just click like and subscribe and then get the hell out of here before I say something that really gets you upset and worked up. We don't want any of that, because it's all about love and togetherness and oneness. Hey-o. Seriously though, if I ever did piss you off, don't take it seriously. You know what I mean? Because it's just me sharing thoughts, and I'm sure that we would get along. There's plenty of people that I've had issues with in my life. Just because of situations. Just say it's a coworker or something, and But then I always think with these people, I always say, if I just met them out somewhere, and we were sitting at the bar having a drink and shooting the shit, I'm sure I would get along with this person just fine. In one-to-one situations, taking any pressures off of what should be, be based on, the parameters of what the relationship is, whether it be a coworker or, a teacher, I don't know, whatever, right? I'm just saying, if you take all that stuff away and just strip it down to two human beings having a conversation, generally I do pretty well with most people. But there are people, and that's what I'm saying about, maybe each person's disposition, being a little bit different. Some people just really don't want to talk, care to talk, or, have that vibe of connection for whatever the reason is for their life purpose. There's this one girl, I haven't seen her in a while. When I go for my walks, I would see her sometimes in the morning, and I mean, this girl, when I would pass by, like if we were on the same part of the sidewalk, like she looked like petrified, like, like she was look away, and, the headphones are in, and like she's almost like waiting to like pepper spray me or something, like, just like I'm just passing by, just wanted to say hello, didn't mean to cause you distress and dismay. But anyway, so I did say today's the 23rd of August, a good year 2023, and today's program is entitled "No News is Good News," ladies and gentlemen. I do definitely talk about a lot of times the news and not watching the news because, it's so negative, and they focus on stuff to keep our brains, locked in this fearful, way of being instead of, more of a, kinder, gentler way of being. But, the truth of the matter is, and I'm going to have some information to read to you guys, but the truth of the matter is, and I realize it, if you just think about it, people like bad news in a way, right? And we'll talk about why, but, people like bad news. And it's even like, if you think about gossip, we always really shouldn't gossip and everything, but, somebody will say, even if it's like, I'm talking like bad news, like people like bad news. Oh, something blew up or something happened, right? But, I mean, even the gossip. Oh, did you hear that so-and-so down the street was cheating on his wife? Or did you hear that so-and-so's kid got drunk and crashed the car? Oh, they did? And everybody can't wait to get the juice on on somebody else and have something to say when we're all, don't point fingers, right? Or, don't throw stones in glass houses things. It's like, we all got crap going on. So, we should be a little nicer to each other. But so basically, I just wanted to talk about this a little bit today as far as, the news that's out there. And what kind of prompted this thought is that I just started thinking of like how everyone loves like doom and gloom, and I don't understand, I watch a lot of variety of content on YouTube for, different subjects that I'm interested in. And a lot of times like these people will be, everything, especially the economy or the war in Ukraine, those type of topics like, oh, it's all about to hit the fan now, and be ready with your nuclear bunkers, or, the dollar's about to crash and it's going to be mayhem in the streets, and, better get guns and ammo. And, it's always this like, oh, I talked about this yesterday a bit, but it's been kind of my train of thought this week, I guess, and I just started thinking like, why all the time do we have to go at it this way? Again, I think of everything from a different perspective of like, we're all learning lessons and humanity, and, not to take the physical, so seriously, things are happening. I'm not over in these countries where things are happening, like, Hawaii, what happened over there and what's going on in Ukraine. There's stuff going on in Africa. There's I think there was fires and stuff in Greece too. I mean, there's stuff like happening everywhere. People are displaced. People, have died, so it's like not like stuff's not really happening. But I hate to make it sound so minimalistic in a sense, but, if you look at it in the grand scheme of things, yes, are tragedies happening? Yes. Are people dying? Yes. Does the world seem, chaotic? Yes. But, and I know it's easy to say, and I really don't mean it as simplistic as it sounds, but I go back to, these thoughts are liberating, and it doesn't mean that we don't engage with what's happening and take proper, recourse in our lives, depending on what those situations are. But at the end of it, if we somehow can get to a space of remembering, that, listen, we're more, whatever your beliefs are in general, but we're more than just the human body, and, time and space are not what we perceive. We have our three-dimensional way of perceiving, yet there's so much more going on, right? Beyond our five senses and such. So, if you can, kind of keep a space for that. And that's again why I talk about Course in Miracles. I mentioned it multiple times, and it's really kind of a lot of what it teaches. It's not about saying, oh, just the world doesn't exist, so don't do anything. It's about understanding that, these things, it's part of, the dream in a sense. It's part of living the life of duality, because either there's the oneness or there's separation. So it's one or the other, right? And the space of separation, really the chaos comes from always trying to get back to oneness. The chaos just breaks out in a billion different directions and all kinds of different scenarios, because they're all just little, like I said, what I say, was it yesterday that I said they're all just like little, cattle prods, to push you back towards, seeking oneness and the comfort in that. And, it's a fine line. I'm not because I know people who are not like on that way of thought, might think I'm just being aloof or something, but like, I'm really not. I think it's just, I mean, I always say this, if I was to drop dead tomorrow, it's like, do I want to drop dead tomorrow? No, not particularly, but if I did, I don't look at it as a loss in a sense, right? Because there is ultimately no loss. There's no, energy never ends. It just transforms. And I think the biggest part of like why we hold on so tightly to our ideas, as these physical animals, for lack of, better word, in a body, we have that primal way of wanting security, stability, knowing exactly what's going on. And so it's hard to imagine like, okay, it's hard to even imagine that you can have more than what we already have, when you're out of the body, right? And you're like, oh, what am I going to do if I'm dead? And, I'm saying like, we can't even fathom like what's, the grandness of how much more consciousness and perception and understanding of universal laws and everything else that we would have, outside of the body, but we're so focused on being, in the body and this world. It's just, it's pretty interesting dynamic. All right. So let me get into this here for you here, ladies and gentlemen, as far as, basically what we're talking about is negativity bias is what it's called, as far as people seemingly to gravitate towards negative news instead of good news, which, and of course, everything is a product, right? So that's why, another reason why you're always seeing negative stuff. And you're not going to go turn on the news and go, the big story tonight is Joe helped Mary across the street. It was beautiful. She was carrying a bag of fruit. A few oranges fell out. He picked them up, put them back in the bag, escorted her across the street. Everyone was happy. It's a beautiful day here. Back to you, Chuck. So it's like nobody's going to be doing that kind of story, right? It was like me getting upset that it was sunny here all the time. Like, what kind of nut? It's like, I can't take it. It's too sunny and nice in Florida. I want to see some rain. It's like, what's wrong with people? What's wrong with me? What's wrong with you? You're okay. Don't worry about you. Don't worry about me either. I'm going to be fine. When you see me, hopefully it gives you the space to say, listen, my life's not so bad because that guy's got some serious mental problems. Well, if you turn on the news these days, and you'd be forgiven for thinking that the world is about to end, from politics to climate change to the economy, negative and bad news surrounds us everywhere we go. The problem isn't the problem isn't just that there are terrible things happening around the world, but also that our brains are simply wired to pay more attention to unpleasant news. Psychologists call this negativity bias, and have found that it's one of the first things we develop as children. And while this bias may have helped our ancestors pay attention to potentially life-threatening situations, today it's getting in the way of our happiness, well-being, and even our productivity. So how do we get past negativity bias and stop bad news from ruining our day? So I don't know. First of all, I would say stop watching the news, of course, but first of all, just take a step back from what I just said, right? I think one of the most important things to just have the realization. Let's just start with point A, the realization that our brains, that reptilian side of our brains, that want to, have security, safety, and all that, we seek out bad news because we want to be aware of danger that's coming, right? So, now that that your brain is kind of wired to gravitate towards that, then, you could take the steps to put yourself in situations where you're not taking that type of information in. So, just how much news are people consuming every day? According to a recent Nielsen study, 169 million Americans read the news either through print, online, or on their mobile device. When they looked at from over, I think they took a data was over 50,000 people, and based on their usage of everything they watch, it equated to like 320,000 days on news sites. So That's a lot of time for people being on news sites, right? And so why reading or watching bad news first thing in the morning is so bad for you? Well, of course, we do know when you wake up, right before you fall asleep and right when you wake up in the morning, basically those are the times that your mind is most connected to the spiritual side, the other side where you are really from, right? Outside of the physical. So what you put into your mind as you're going to bed and what you first take in the morning pretty much sets the tone for your day. And it says here, individuals who watch just 3 minutes of negative news in the morning had a whopping, 27% greater likelihood of reporting their day as unhappy 6 to 8 hours later compared to the positive condition. So, of course, I'm big on saying that it's important to pay attention to what's going on, but not to wallow in it, right? And another thing that the psychologist was saying here in this article, explained in his book, it says, because the news cycle has become, because good news takes time to develop, basically, is what they're trying to say. Is when good things, it's not negative things happen instantaneously, like the way what happened in Hawaii or something, right? It's like boom, just as fire rip through, blah blah blah. Yeah, magically though, just let me go down my conspiracy a little bit. The fire magically, ripped through in certain ways and left mansions standing, but took out other things. And, so anyway, you can research all that for yourself if you enjoy that line of thinking. But bad things can happen quickly, but good things aren't built in a day. And as they unfold, they will be out of sync with the news cycle. So it's kind of interesting when you think about it, right? That how important, and again, it goes back to, the programming, and I say, for people who get wrapped up in the day to day and take it so seriously, I just think it's so important to have space to be aware and to realize that this type of stuff, I know it sounds, like I always say, I don't mean it sounds so crazy conspiracy, but everything's just too perfect, the way that it happens. And, do some things happen by accident? I don't really believe there are any accidents or coincidences, because everything is essentially one moment. I'm going back to what I said before, the higher picture of things. Everything is really one energy in one moment, all working synergistically together, however it flows. So there really are no accidents or coincidences. Everything is playing out. Like it might depend on where you put your focus, like what you perceive to how things play out. Like I speak all the time. I can come on here every day and be like, oh, did you see what happened here today? And, we got to stop Joe Biden. He should be out of office. He's crazy. I don't know, whatever. Or you hate Trump and, Trump should be whatever, whatever people resonate with. But you start getting into that and taking it so seriously instead of looking at it from the space of like all these little like cells in the body, every little cell is in the body. The one cell doesn't know the other cell, but they all work together to create, this whole humanoid that we're in. So the Peace researcher John Gautling pointed out that if every newspaper came out once every 50 years, it would not report half a century of celebrity gossip and political scandals. It would report momentous global changes such as the increase in life expectancy. What is that? It didn't make sense to me. Oh, I guess it said if a newspaper came out once every 50 years, it would not report half a century of celebrity gossip. Oh, I see. One newspaper every 50 years. So instead of now I understand. I gotta understand what I'm reading myself. Basically, instead of saying newspapers every day, if one newspaper just came out, one newspaper every 50 years, think about all the nonsense you wouldn't hear about, right? And it would keep you happier. So they talk about to combat the negative news cycle, slow down and pick your battles, right? So. And I agree with that too, as far as, picking your battles, because, how many things are you going to fight about, what's going on in the world, in the news and everything else, right? It's like, certain things are going to, draw your attention a little more than others. So, pick which one you like, or, even like myself, like I don't pay attention to news like all day long. And I do take that time in the early evening around 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock. I might watch about an hour, see what they're saying on Fox, see what they're saying on CNN, see what they say on my local news, and see what they say on world news. And I'll, kind of flip around through those and just kind of see what stories they're reporting and what they quote unquote say is going on in the world. Like, listen, I've talked about this a gazillion times. I don't really believe in our media right now. I'm not saying it's a bad practice. Overall, I mean, genuine journalism would be wonderful, but I mean, I think it's pretty obvious that it's a propaganda machine, what we see in our day-to-day mainstream media. And on top of it, I mean, here's an article that I'm finding and expressing with you about negativity bias, and psychologists talking about how people, tend to resonate towards, negative information. So don't you think that the powers that be are aware of that? Don't you think that there's like, and I know people don't like to believe in, again, I talk about the conspiracy thing only because I just know a lot of people, kind of get goofy with that when I start saying certain things. So I never want to be too heavy with it, but I don't mean it's even so, it doesn't have to be that heavy either, but that's just another facet. Everything is levels, right? So when you go up these levels, and we have to remember that there's levels that we don't understand, right? So, we think we know how news is disseminated. We think we know how society is operating, and, what do we really know? I mean, whether there's a story I've been seeing recently about, I know Russia tried to land some sort of craft on the moon last week or early this week. I don't know, whatever it was. And now they're talking about, other countries. Everybody wants to get back to the moon all of a sudden, but like in my mind, like we've already been on the moon, like for God knows how long. And, them talking about the moon now makes it easier, when they, and gives what I'm saying is it's programming, right? Because it gives people the basis of, okay, we're going to the moon, we're at the moon. So one day, if there's like a building on the moon, it wouldn't be a big deal. But that building's probably been there for 200 years. It's the same thing like with Mars. They talk about there's already, generations of humans living on Mars. So, I don't know how true. I haven't been to Mars, so I don't know how true that is or not. But all I mean is when we shun those type of concepts as being like, oh, that's just preposterous, rah, 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 whatever, right? People would say, but we don't know. We don't know all the technologies that are available that have not been disclosed to the general population. We don't know the levels of leadership beyond the ones that we see on TV. We don't know a lot of things. So that's why I always try to keep it in a space of of just being open-minded, and not taking it too seriously. Because I think when we get down to this level where we are, as a general population, it's not just like having an animal that you keep in a barn that you manage. It's got to be more psychological, because we're humans that we think and we have brains. So, we make choices, or so we think, and so it's a broader, excuse me, it's a broader, plan to herd humans, as it were, compared to herding your cattle or your chickens or whatever the frig people do. So yeah, I mean, it's so interesting. I don't know. I find it interesting because, and again, I've used the word a lot recently, but just liberating. It's not scary. It should be even make you feel better in a way of just not saying that it doesn't matter or you give up or any of that type of thing. Just, just knowing that there's, you can have peace with yourself knowing that there's things that you don't understand, plain and simple, right? So you don't have to take everything at face value. And, I just think how things play out here, however chaotic it seems, there is a plan behind the general, construct of how everything's going, and just as I say, we're in a time of transition, as a humanity, consciousness growing, the energy's changing, the planetary alignment's changing. I know people don't put a lot of credence in some of those concepts, but, everything is a part of everything. So, they tell a story too. And, I think it's a great thing. And what we're seeing is, from all aspects, is a full on assault, like blatantly in your face, of showing like, how messed up things have been for a long time. Things are being exposed, cleaned out. It's like going down and up into the attic or down into the basement, whatever you want to do, say, and cleaning out crap that's been there buried in the corner for years that you didn't even know you had, and that's just like, how they're pulling the children out of the tunnels underground, these Satan worshiping bastards drinking the children's blood, So I'm just saying, like, that might not come out like that, but, as all these things kind of play out, our financial system is totally built on human trafficking and such. So, and that's why we have a fake system the way we do. And anyway, it's beyond for how I see it anyway. And so I don't take much. It doesn't get me so upset when I see what's going on in the world. I mean, it's horrible, some of the things that happen. It's really a disgrace if you want to look at it from our perspective of how any entity, whether it's human or alien or whatever, that doesn't have compassion of some sort, or how our society, whatever you want to say, but how our society can just utilize people as pawns that way, and feel nothing for wiping out a half a population or something for an agenda of power and control and all that, and all the things that we see, our day-to-day leaders and everything else, they're just they're just like it's like the lead singer of the band, they're just the one standing up there, but everybody else behind the scenes, I shouldn't say lead singer of a band because the band's part of a band. How about like the orchestra section if you go see a musical, right? They're down in the pit, you don't see them, and the actors are on stage doing their whole thing, but you don't see the people in the pit that are playing all the music, or the guy up in the booth running the lights, but those are the people that are really making the crap happen, right? So I don't know, just stuff to think about. And just to reiterate as I end here today, that this particular episode really about just being aware of the fact that we are kind of wired to see negative stories, before we go to the positive stories. So, I say, knowing that is great. So, if you have someone that tends to get a little upset over seeing news and negativity and such, maybe just be aware of that and, give yourself space. I'm not saying don't pay attention to what's going on, you educate yourself, whatever. But, just know that they know that and who knows, and we know, but they know that they know that you don't know, whatever they know, and I think the information is put out in that way and I'll leave it at this. And I've said this before too. I just can't help it. If our leadership, if our world was run really in a humane, compassionate way, there's just no way that things would be done this way. They would never come on TV and talk like doom and gloom and this is dire and this situation and it looks bad. What do you think? Blah, 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 we're going to keep our eye on it. I just they would never talk like that. They would come on and say, okay, listen, this is what happened. Everything's okay. It's like, when I was a kid, my mom had gotten into a car accident. When I was at school, I come home from school and my grandpa was standing out front of the house, and I was like, oh, and, he comes, and he came up to me, and he goes, I just want you to know, your mother got into a car accident today. She's okay. She got a little banged up, but she's okay. And blah, blah. So he didn't come up to me and go, oh, Pete, breaking news. Your mother was in a horrific crash today. She's still in the hospital, black eyes and bloody head. I was like, what? Your mother just may die. He just go, so, your mother got very compassionate. I mean, right. So you think that the leadership and people that are, especially people who are leaders, if you're really a leader, right, you know how to deal with people and speak to people. So, let's just take a step back. Remember that we're wired for negativity. They know we're wired for negativity. They push negativity out. They want us in fear. They want us pushed down. They don't want you being free of spirit, and they don't want you feeling good and abundant. So, it's our choice. It's our responsibility, and let's do it because we can do it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being here today on Operation Status Quo. If you haven't done so already, I implore you in a kind way to like, subscribe, share, send this out to your friends, your family, those you love, and of course, those you despise as well. I love each and every one of you individually as well as a group. God bless you out there. And until tomorrow, Operation Status Quo disengaged. Is a boulevard of 10 short blocks.